Go ahead.
Oh, so the reason why I want to talk about alcohol and teen alcoholism or alcohol is because I was a diagnosed teenage alcoholic at 16. And I truly believe that there comes a fork in the road of intervention. Progression of it was my world got smaller and smaller, and I was completely isolated. So there were no more masks. I couldn't avoid my own self because I had shrunk to such a small social arena. But I can tell you point blank exactly what happened the day of. It wasn't any unusual than the regular type of partying, but this time it was a 3-day run. And I remember getting up from the table and all the alcohol was gone, taking a sip out of a warm beer can with a cigarette butt. I had to start a new job, and I remember going, this is the same feeling over and over and nothing's changing. And I walked into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I did a double take because I could not recognize the person looking at me. There was a soullessness and a death in my eyes, and it jolted me. To the core of my being. I literally looked at death, and I looked up to the ceiling and I said, God help me. Whatever's out there, help me. I can't do this. And I never have had to pick up or use or drink ever since. I haven't walked in a path where there's only gang members, but I know what it feels like to be alone. Aloneness and fear doesn't have to have a specific face. It doesn't have a race, and I don't want to sound too woo-woo, but I think sometimes it takes an intervention of something greater than ourselves. I don't think you're human and not feel fear. I think drugs and alcohol and gangs and whatever addiction you want to pick up is to mask fear. For me, what actually helped heal the fear or dissipate the fear was being in a group of people that actually loved me just the way I was, that said there's another way, that you're acceptable, lovable, capable, adorable just the way you are. And that maybe we see something in you that you don't see in yourself. We hear about it. We're going to love you till you love yourself. Our society is the society of beating someone down rather than building up. Addiction is a disease. And I think that rather than ridicule, we need some sort of reward system. We need to build this culture back up. And fear is prevalent. I don't watch the news because I can't handle the fear. And one other thing I want to just relay, and then I'll get off my bandwagon, is I think that there is one common theme amongst alcoholics, and I know this to be true. I wrote a book for teens. A lot of what my research has showed me is that those that tend down the path of addiction and destruction is because there's this sensitivity to us that we don't know how to be comfortable in our own skin, and that we're afraid to fully express who we are, because if we do, you're not going to like us. And the only way that I was able to heal that was abstinence, but also to reprogram all that negative, all that self-hate talk and that self-hatred for positive, whether it's positive actions, whether it's affirmations. And I had to reprogram literally my brain and teach myself that I am lovable, that I am deserving, that I am worthy, to allow that flower to blossom. I was fortunate enough at 16 to have been diagnosed, and basically for me, it ruined that path for me. I never drank or used without a conscience again. And at 22, had what I call my moment of clarity. And, when I think of what was the underlying issue of alcoholism, I think it's two and threefold. I think there is a component of genetics. I think it's situational based on environment. And I also believe that there is an innate fundamental wiring of insecurity, a deeper almost soul sickness, and a sensitivity that I think alcoholics tend to carry. I can only speak for myself. And I just feel so fortunate to have had the opportunity to get sober young. I mean, by 22, I was exhausted, deep and lost beyond words in my soul. I've definitely found that it's true in that alcoholism is not a prejudice type of disease. It doesn't matter where you come from, high status, low status. It is, it's so cunning, and I think that part of the confusion is that so little is about the drugs and alcohol. I think drugs and alcohol are but a symptom of this underlying current of dis-ease. I think there's a dis-ease. I think there's bullying. I think that there's a lot of things that happen at home. I think fundamentally we're not being supported as people, and then you have this gaping hole that drugs and alcohol can fill. It's almost as if it's a self-soothing buffer. I do think that there is that, like I said, genetic predisposition as to why some people maybe outgrow it and why those of us like myself just took off running with it. I had older siblings, and like I said, there was that piece of me that was insecure and horribly shy and uncomfortable, and I wanted to be included. I wanted to go to the parties, and I remember first being scared of it and then feeling like I wouldn't fit in if I didn't join them. And then it was almost that pattern. Once it got in my system, there was this sense of ease and comfort, and I did fit in. And then it's almost like an invisible line that gets crossed, that now I became dependent on it versus I just wanted to fit in. And then it turned into an addiction. Emotionally and socially, it took the edge off. Back at a very insecure, uncomfortable time of not feeling enough, not feeling pretty enough, not feeling smart enough, not feeling wealthy enough around, the crowd I was in. And all of a sudden, once I drank, my inhibitions and my insecurities subtly disappeared. It was false. It was a false mask. And then it did become a physical addiction. It's dabbled with innocently, and it's like a dark force that takes you over, and you can't pick or choose when it's going to take you. And once it gets you, it's like it's got you. Being a teenage alcoholic is almost a self-imprisonment, to have to, if you're so lucky, grow up 10 years after you realize, oh my gosh, I just wasted 10 years, because I was an alcoholic. I couldn't imagine any other life. I mean, I look back and I just sometimes wish, if only I had dodged that bullet, or I had not had to experience that. I had the makings of an elite Olympic athlete, and I threw it all away. I had such high hopes and aspirations. And, I feel grateful that I got sober young, but I do know that I want to go back to the fact that it's a sense of dis-ease and that soul sickness. All I could say is that it's a dark path, it's a dark road, that you deserve more, that it only takes one person in that unit to break that chain, and that you can be that person to give the other community a sense of freedom and hope that there's a way out and that you don't have to follow the herd. I think I've dedicated my life purpose to breaking this chain because it is so generational and it's gone on for so many years in the lineage. And if I can do nothing more than be an example to my children or child how to do it differently. And you know what? All I can tell you is it's so hard to go against the grain. I had to leave my family unit and walk this path on my own. And all I can tell you is there's an inner part in, I think, all of us that knows right from wrong, that knows that's not truly the road we want to take, even when we're influenced that that's the only way. I can't say enough, dig deep and be that voice of change. Make the difference, make that ripple be a positive one. Be that courageous person to say, I can do it differently, in the face of everyone telling you this is the only way.